Yo. Yeah, loud and clear, man. You sound great.
Dope, dope.
Yes. Very excited to be up here on stage with you. Just gonna give FMC a minute to get in here and the rest of the crew, and we'll kick it off.
Sounds good, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Always welcome. All right. Well, while we're waiting and while we're letting people get filed in here, oh, there he is. Perfect. Just gonna ask, how's your day been? Thursday so far. I know we've been trying to get you on the show for a little bit, but you are an incredibly busy person in Web3 and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're working three Web3 jobs. It's like Thursdays just end up being when everybody's trying to, ship and get new stuff out. I actually got Poof is going to be joining us too. He'll be jumping on in about 5 minutes. He got the end of his day freed up, so that will be a nice little treat. I haven't spoken to him in a couple minutes, so I
Oh
can't
man,
wait
I
to
thought you
hear
were gonna
his
say a couple
voice.
months. I'm like, whoa.
Oh yeah. We just ship stuff. We don't even talk to each other. No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, that's
like
how.
constant communication and like bickering over like
Oh,
this is
so you
gonna
guys are
work. I
almost
don't think
talking
this.
at this point. Yeah,
Oh
they're just.
man, we just read each
FMC.
other's minds.
What is up, my friend? How are you this Terrestrial Thursday?
I'm good, man. How are you today? How's your Thursday been so far?
It's been very nice, and it is beautiful to have the homie Beef up on stage. What's up, man?
It's so nice to talk to you again, FMC. It's been a minute.
Yeah, buddy. Been a little bit enjoying all the updates you guys are pushing as you were just talking about. So
I
really
feel like
happy.
yeah, we had you on to host a patch notes like a month ago, and then we're just like, we're just gonna ship updates every week for an entire
Yeah,
month.
I was really just going to bug you guys and say, you know what, you shipped a bunch. We probably should talk about it again soon. So yeah, we got to do that.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
I mean, that's basically Ether Orcs' motto is just to consistently ship and consistently deliver, right? I mean, you got to be coming up on almost a year since your mint date, and it's just been, steadily growing, steadily building.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I wasn't with the team until February of this year. I actually saw Orcs, or like I think Orcs and Kaiju dropped about the same, I think like the same week or weekend. And I remember popping into both Discords back when I was getting started in NFTs, and like I didn't get either mints, and I remember just being like, "Well, I'm priced out. I'm just gonna bounce." And then I come back probably mid-December, the floor play on Orcs was down, and I just went ham. I bought right in, ended up just started cranking out memes, started just pitching ideas, started making videos, and then they're just like, "All right, you're on the team."
So we're basically the same person because I watched everybody in Alpha Mint not only get an Ether Orcs but also Kaiju Kings, and I sat on the sideline for both. The difference is that I sat there coping, and you just ended up working for them or with them, really.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the long game with me. I mean, I don't even know what happened during that time between like October and December, but I think Wolf Game was going on at some point, mentioned Wolf Game, and then that kind of brought me into Orcs because yeah, I was looking for more of like the thing that like drew me into the Orc team to begin with was I was always I'm a huge nerd. I'm a huge RPG nerd. I've been playing Final Fantasy games since I was like 5 6 years old. Just playing video games in general since I was like 3. I've still game. I probably play like 5 or 6 new video games a week just to like try new concepts out. I listen to video game dev podcasts. I watch YouTube videos about like video game theory, like things that are outside the scope of Web3 because, you know, I actually tweeted this today. I think the conversation about game dev in Web3 kind of gets lost in this miasma of like tokenomics and staking and smart contracts. And what I love that we do at Ether Orcs is we try to make it, you know, it's more about the ethos of like actual game over, you know, how much is the token price? How much is the floor price? It's, you know, kind of taking something from Forgotten Runes book, who I also work for. It's like lore, not floor. We're kind of like game, not floor.
Ooh, I love that lore, not floor. But yeah, even just taking a fun first approach is something that is, especially in the past 8 months, was sorely lacking in, I'm air quoting, P2E, if you even want to call it that, but these like simple risk protocol things. And, we actually spoke quite a bit before the show and whatnot. And it really is just like about making this space fun and about the actual games. I just see Poof hopped in here, so I'm going to get him up on stage. And once he's up, I'll kind of just do a quick intro and whatnot and let you guys talk about yourselves too. So, Poof, welcome.
Hey, I'll have to jump off in like 30. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, you sound great.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to jump off in like 30 minutes, but Beef shot this over to me, so I'm happy to chat with you guys.
Yeah, I think that gives us plenty of time too. So of course, this is Terrestrial Thursday, the space where we talk about all things P2E, big broad strokes, and just have a good narrative conversation about where the space came from, where we think it can go, and Poof and Beef, of course, of Ether Orcs, no better people to talk to when it comes to Web3 gaming. And I'm really, really excited to have this conversation. Do you guys want to just, for those of you listening that don't know the Ether Orc Squad, you guys want to just give me the 2-minute rundown of like who you are and how you got to this point where you've, founded and been developing the preeminent, Web3 game in this space?
Poof, you want to take the beginning and then I'll take it from when the game launched?
Yeah, I'll go first. So yeah, so I'm Poof. I'm one of the co-founders of Ether Orcs. We started work on it September of last year and then launched in October. And we did it all really fast and with kind of a random group of people, Wrangler John, Bassett at the time, who was the lead dev, helping us put together, and did a bunch of crazy things. And then it kind of took off unexpectedly, or not fully unexpectedly, but unexpectedly. Totally free mint, everything else. And then from there, we always had thoughts and a vision of a much bigger world, an actual more interactive game. And then through the process of kind of learning PDE, I don't think any of us have a traditional game background other than playing games. I have a background in like kind of modeling and LTV and consumer engagement and all that type of stuff. So some of the tokenomics and stuff were helpful as we were originally designing it. And then what we kind of realized as we went through is that, hey, we actually find this like token yield based staking GameFi thing to not be super good or healthy. And we also had the benefit of living through like the Axie crash and everything else. So we've kind of transformed the game to where it is now, where it's much more of a traditional RPG progression, earn gear, craft stuff, and we're kind of much more interactive and engaging. So I'll hand it over to Beef, who's like the all-star, jack of all trades, mastermind at this point, and is just incredible, who joined by making
Evil
memes,
mastermind.
by making memes in the Discord that were really good.
Yeah.
And he's also on vacation, so I apologize to your wife. Just please tell her I'm sorry that you're talking.
Oh no, it's all good. I've been meaning to do this show for like a month and a half, and I've just been too busy with other stuff. And it's good to actually get some space so I can do other things. But no, it's to what you were saying, Poof. When you guys started the game initially, what drew me in was like, oh, this could actually become an actual RPG game where every other P2E or any other GameFi didn't seem like it could ever reach that spot. And then when I joined, and like when, you know, I was like running the Twitter, still am running the Twitter, but like, you know, taking the game from where, and it's insane the development we've had, but like taking the game from what we launched in May, you know, that bare bone, like I'll say it, it was like, it's a bare bones dungeon crawler with like 3 or 4 dungeons, and we had 9 weapons, to what we have now with over 150 weapons, 30 abilities, 50 plus monsters, 10 plus dungeons. We got the collabs coming up. We have a fully integrated Polygon marketplace, which I think is the first one on Polygon with a native token outside of ETH. It's like, yeah, the amount of dev we've had since May is just insane. And I think that speaks just to like, you know, what Spy and Jakers really put together on the front and back end, and what Vinny brings as our Solidity dev. It's like our team is just like insane and lean. Like when you say it a lot that we're lean, but we're like lean in that it's like one guy is like, it's like I'm pitching ideas about gaming concepts that I'm ripping from, like, because I'm in every P2E I can get my hands on. I'm in every Steam game I can get my hands on, every Nintendo game. I play everything. And every time I find a good concept, I make like a mind chart of like how we could integrate it into Orcs, and then I send it to Poof, and I'm like, wouldn't this be cool if we could get this implemented in like the next 3 days? Like it would really widen the development curve. And this is like bringing it back to like where we see P2E going. Is like, you know, taking it away from the tokenomics, like in-game economy, which, you know, naturally fleshes itself out over time when you create fun and like, you know, player mnemonic desire and wanting to get stronger, and then bringing in those actual Web 2 game, like fun game elements of like getting stronger progression curves, player decision making, input and output randomness, and all like the actual fun parts of game dev.
I love it. I actually I want to bring FMC onto this too, because I mean, if you want to talk about one of the most bullish people on Ether Orcs from its very inception, I mean, he was like literally running around his apartment before Minted yelling Zoog, which we established later that was not the appropriate proper pronunciation of it.
Iconic.
Look, I'll have you know,
that brings back
there's
memories.
a town in Switzerland called, I don't know if it's Zug or Zug. We have to find out.
I'm gonna drink this coffee from my Moog right now and listen to your answer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's very funny. Yeah. No. Obviously, I have been a huge Ether Org fan since the beginning, even when it was just GameFi, and I have been completely addicted to dungeon crawls. I mean, I do not have enough Zug to satisfy how much I want to play, though that has changed the last week, as now the marketplace is open, and they just mentioned Beef, and just mentioned that it has really taken the game, I think, to the next level, because now there's a lot more movement. I had a ton of extra resources that you couldn't move on OpenSea because they had weird minimums and restrictions and things like that. And now we're discovering the true price of things in the economy. And it's a fabulous time. So it's really nice to have everybody on Terrestrial Thursday, for sure.
Yeah, man, I love it. I was actually telling R2D how I think we're actually in like the golden age. Like, I know it doesn't feel like it because we're in a bear market, but it really does, at least to me, as somebody who like likes to dabble in like gaming, and like I've been trying out a lot of different projects in the last couple of weeks. It feels like we're kind of in this like golden age of like Web3 gaming, NFT gaming, because like it's so not, in the normal sense, but like you can try out any game you want to right now for like a fairly affordable price. And you could buy Zug and like just run a crap ton of dungeons. Like, I know that's kind of like a controversial take, because like, in NFTs in the Web3 space, we're all like, price go up, good. But I'm kind of like, well, price go down. Now I can play these games as much as I want and get ahead and be the best at these games. And I've been trying out a multitude of them just to see like different mechanics that other teams are using in their contracts and their front and their back ends. And it's like, you can actually just have fun, and the NFT can be the product. So I've been really enjoying that.
I think also, like, I think you actually hit on something interesting, which is I always think about it from a developer standpoint or from like a pragmatic standpoint. Like, I just, with consumer and user behavior, especially on like extremely unproven things, like having people be able to openly trade things for real money without using a credit card or anything, or eBay or whatever, which is what Web3 basically brings to games. Like, that is an entirely new dynamic, marketplace economy dynamic to go understand, learn, etc. So that's like really important for us and how we go respond to things and understand things. But then also, like, from a player standpoint, the ability to actually go experience what happens is actually kind of a huge advantage for people too. Not to be purely focused on the monetary aspects, but as Web3 gaming continues to iterate, you start to get a really clear understanding of what's going to work. Because I think that's actually, honestly, people who experienced Axie at the beginning, whether it's sustainable or not, it's not. It's a shitty model, but they didn't know, so it's fine. But like, that experience led to a lot of people being able to just go rip on all these other PDE games for a really long time and have this huge advantage because they knew exactly the destination and the way. It's kind of an evil version of.
It's like that's not as wholesome as what I said.
it's like Zagabond learning, but there is like, and it also, what I think it does do though too is it actually helps you to understand and start to learn what's going to be real and what won't too. Because like, you look at like something like Raid Party or whatever, like I can't think of another example. But
yeah, and I've been playing that a lot and feeding you like what my experience is, like what doesn't work, why it doesn't work, and what we could actually learn from them, and all those like kind of facets.
Because there's gonna keep being a bunch of these, and like even the AAA stuff, like they're gonna go fuck up. Like MMOs and all these other things regularly fuck up huge launches, and it implodes because they have bugs, or they don't understand the technology, or there's game economy issues. So, anyways, we're just talking now.
We even saw Diablo 3 like many years ago implement a real money auction house. Obviously, it wasn't blockchain or NFT based, but that was absolutely disastrous, except for the people that like sold right at the beginning. Because I had friends that like extracted a couple $1,000s out of just some gear that they had accumulated naturally playing. But the implementation was a disaster, and the execution was a disaster, and they didn't really have any kind of well thought out processes as to like how this would affect the actual economy, or even just like the attitude of players towards it. And that player behavior is something that is, like, as Beef said earlier, is it's so unpredictable, and you're just constantly trying to react to it in a positive way, right? Like, do you guys want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah. Player behavior is our favorite thing because, and me and Poof talk about this all the time. It's like when you create a concept or like a new mechanic, and I love this because like when I was designing like these new dungeons, like I had specific things that I wanted the player base to do, and for the most part they did it. But in other ways, they went completely 180 of what I thought they would do. Like there's a couple players that I talk to on the regular, and like they tell me their gear set up and like what they roll. And the only dungeon they lined up perfectly, like, and I set up like a perfect team for every dungeon. And if you don't know that we have like we have a gear system in Ether Orcs that has a bunch of different abilities. You can use those different abilities to beat monsters in an RPG dungeon crawler fashion. Only on the latest dungeon did they get exactly what I thought how they would play. Every other player behavior that they had going into dungeons was either like a 180 of what I thought they would do, or just like they completely glossed over an item that I'm like, oh, this wrecks the dungeons. It's like there's an item called Crazy Knife, which does up to 250 damage piercing, which is an insane amount of damage in game, but nobody used it. And then one guy starts using it, and now everybody's using it. And I had attended it for this one dungeon where like the defense and resistance of the enemies was like insanely high. And I'm probably talking in a circle right now, but like, yeah, it's just funny to see how players react to certain things and like the paths that they take.
Well, yeah. I'm proud to announce that I've just have started to beat the Giant's Tomb this week. I figured out exactly how I should be playing that. First of all, on the first level, that first giant, I don't use any stamina because
Yeah.
my team resists him enough that I can usually get through with maybe just using 1 or 2 potions, and I can bring all my stamina to the werewolves. And as long as I can get through the spider, and I don't remember what that boss is.
The alien.
Yeah. Every once in a while, he will hit you with a critical that unless your tank is at absolutely full health, it'll just kill it. So as long as you get through there, I can pretty much now kind of own that dungeon, get my gold chests at will, which is good for me. So
That's awesome. No, it's
yeah.
so fun. And I think that's where, like, before, that's where, like, there's so many different levels to the thing. And, like, I've just worked in a very slow and different industry, but have seen consumers and what they say versus what they do and everything else. And, like, the main thing is behavioral economics. You just need data and go see what people do. And you don't expect a lot of things. So we kind of always had that mindset, and we saw that even when we had really simple systems, like more of the yield, hey, go get bone shards, people were doing crazy things that we didn't expect, that wasn't good, blah, blah, blah. But I think what's important now as we look forward is, like, how do we go understand, have a really good pulse on all the data, game economy dynamics? There's kind of like the pure data, like, hey, what are people using? What's making them successful? How much of different resources are they using? And really building an infrastructure where it's really easy for us to go pivot, right? Like, we actually behind the scenes have this awesome dungeon builder that now takes, like, I don't know, to lay out a dungeon 5 to 10 minutes, and we can easily go implement that. Now, there's a lot of thought that goes behind all the other stuff, but what that frees us up to go do is for Beef and myself or whoever else to go plan out this more intellectual stuff, and then we're really just doing that. So a lot of, like, what we do and what we focus on is kind of, there's some term for this in the game industry that I don't know what it is, but basically just like you run super lean, you move really fast, and you build everything to be super scalable and quick to go make iterations, because you know that, like, the player behavior is going to go shift unexpectedly. So rather than trying to go plan everything out perfectly, which you never will, you try and go respond to it. And also just make sure that, like, nothing could be so extreme that it just breaks everything, right, too. So that's usually what we're more planning for. And then everything else is kind of a response. Because also, like, to Beef's point, when you have then the next layer of just the game culture, the cultures and societies that in communities that arise from any game, you have, like, different metas that, like, you could very well end up in a situation where there is an ideal play that no one knows, that we don't know, and it's not discovered until, like, 5 years from now because only one player ever did it and they never messed with it, right? Like, that happens all the time in a lot of games. But it depends on the culture and everything else. So then we're having that kind of phenomenon. So anyways, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say, like, in traditional gaming, some of the most interesting game mechanics, particularly in competitive type games, actually stemmed from somebody just finding a bug that wasn't game breaking, but actually just made things that much more interesting. And you just need, like, tons of people doing tons of different things to actually just stumble upon something like that. And it can be really incredible what the community kind of comes up with when they're theory crafting, and really actually help evolve the ecosystem as well, right?
Oh, I love it. It's like, okay, this is like, I like it when we kind of fuck up a little bit, because like, when the players break the game in a fun way, I actually like it, because that to me is the ethos of, like, fun gaming. And, like, is finding out, like, the game is hard. How can I push back against the game and beat the shit out of the game? It's that Dark Souls, like, how can I cheese the boss? How can I tell everybody that I cheese the boss? Like, I like that. Like, that's the thing I've always, like, really liked from gaming. And, like, there are some little mess ups that we have, like, where I will miss something, and it will create such a funny moment and fun moment. Like, Crazy Knife isn't supposed to crit, but it crits. And I don't want to ever patch that because that's fun. Like just doing 999 damage, like hitting that 250 roll and then hitting the crit roll on top of that and doing 999 damage to a random enemy with piercing damage, that's fun. You do not want to take that away from players, right? Like that is a horrible thing. I'm so against nerfs. I'm about buffing everything else up, like making the player stronger. This is the shit I nerd out about, like in my head all the time, and why I can't get to sleep at night is because I'm thinking about like, how do I empower the players? How do I make them feel strong and powerful in the game? And how do I make them have a good fucking time? That's my favorite thing.
Preach. So good. And I think like just to build on that too, that is actually the reason why you can't have a token-based economy that's only focused on yield, because that actually doesn't work. Because like if you actually think about like what happened with rogues, where people did a weird thing that we didn't expect because they're obsessed with efficiency, but like the promise of fairness that, hey, if you invested a certain amount, you're going to get back something that follows specific rules, and we won't change or do anything suddenly to go modify that, because your whole thesis is around, I'm going to get this thing if I do this, and I've planned out weeks in advance. So like there's so much more constraint versus now it's like, oh, like we fucked up Crazy Knife. All right, now there's like crit immune bosses coming up for this really new thing. Like, or like now actually there's going to be a new thing that we just buff. Certain other things can like double crits or whatever. Like there's so much more that you can do when it's a real game, and you actually want those experiences where people break things, because that is like what skill is in games fundamentally, right? Like in Quake, you learned how to go do all the crazy shit to go move really fast, and that just is the game. Like, and if you haven't been doing that for 20 years, you will never be able to play at the same level. But you know, is what it is.
Yeah,
It's how the game culture works.
Oh man, I think about like, I don't know, like wave dashing in Smash Bros. Or like, but like this like brings it back to like what I was saying earlier about like this is the golden age of like GameFi. This is the golden age of like Web3 gaming. Is now is the time to like play these games, mess around, get ahead of everybody before like everyone else piles back in. Is because like, all right, now you can play these. You don't have to be yield focused. You can just be fun focused. You can be like, I'm going to make a 3 Crazy Knife rogue build with a massive tank, and that's cool. And I want you to do that. And I don't want you to have to think like, oh, well, will my yield on the Crazy Knives be what I want it to be? Like, I don't give a shit. I want you to do 999 damage to a random enemy. You know, like that's where I'm coming from. I was like, I just want you guys, I want players to have as much fun minute to minute as possible. Like you talk about DPS, damage per second, I'm like fun per second. So like that's where my brain's at all the time.
I feel like I got to use my Crazy Knife more now. Now I'm really wondering it, because I'll tell you, I go with the Executioner's Steel and the Falchion, and I do great.
I mean, Widowmaker is a sick ability. Like
boom. When that thing goes critical, I can do 600 with my rogue. He does like 612 damage when he does a crit. So
yeah, and it's like I think a lot about, you know, and I bounce this off POOF a lot. Is like widening the progression curve too, and then like what's fun in Ether Orcs, right? It's like going around the dungeon using your special abilities. What is the real strategy to Ether Orcs? It's like, okay, stamina management, and like, okay, I want to be able to use my special abilities as much as I can to beat the enemies in the most fun way possible. Okay, how do we get players to not only find their basic abilities fun, but also how do we get players to engage in like a way to get more stamina on their base characters? And it's like, I want to find all these things out. I want to find out ways to just like keep opening the game up, open up levels of progression, take things outside of just a pure weapon progression. And I think these are all the things that we're going to find out like going forward. And it's funny because we're talking about all this fun stuff, and it's like this collabs coming up. POOF, you weren't like the call we had about the collabs and like how we're executing them is just like, it's going to be so much freaking fun. And it's going to be a way for the Kongs and the Orcs community to actually interact in the Zug marketplace and in the Zug and through dungeon crawls that I don't think has ever been done in Web3. It's like, and we're really, and I'm like, we're kind of taking the model of collab from I don't know if anybody's played like Degen like gotcha mobile games where they like have labs where like random IP will come in and that'll be like the most fun event of the year. Like we're modeling it off of those. So like the power growth will be insane. New players will be like very incentivized to like play and get the collab items. And then Kong's holders will be like incentivized to interact with Orc holders in like a very unique way.
Well, and I'm actually glad that you mentioned that because I did want to touch on interoperability, and of course, as Free Market and I mentioned on Moon Mondays, is StarWolvez kind of march towards having these partner projects where NFT wallet can be used in our universe, much like you guys are starting to do, and of course you are probably like the most notable ones, and of course we have a great relationship with you guys that we're really excited to be implementing into it. So like I'm really excited eventually, not too far from now, to be able to see Ether Orcs PvPing against some Star Wolves and whatnot. I just think that's the one huge thing that Web3 has an advantage of over the traditional gaming experience. So obviously you guys are working towards that as well. What's your timeline on that? And like, how do you view interoperability as a whole, like being a game changer in this space?
So timeline, you want me to say the timeline, Poof, or should we keep that under wraps?
If you can, yeah.
Like so this integration is going to be, it's a deep integration. Like it's going to be, God, I think we like racked up the amount of dungeons I have to make. It's like 8 dungeons. It's like, we're looking at like, we're hoping for like 3 weeks to a month we can get this collab out, and yeah, it's going to be,
and that'll kind of set off the chain of different collabs because we've been working with Kongs, and they have like, one of their things is they want to be in every metaverse, right? So they have like just gobs of assets to go like put in. Like how many gigabytes was all the assets they sent us? So we have like unbelievable material to work through too. I can't remember. It's like 15 gigabytes or something insane. I have never seen anything like it. But yeah, anyways, keep going, dude.
oh, sorry, did I get disconnected? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're great.
Yeah, we hear
okay,
you.
cool.
Go for it.
Crap, I lost my train of thought. It was 20 gigs. Spy somehow downloaded it remotely and got like all the assets pulled, and now we got Kongs walking around the dungeons. But it's like bringing all of these assets like and like making, how do I put it? It's like the Kongs are gonna live in the dungeons as enemies, as player characters. We're gonna have unique Kong weapons that, Ether Orcs character like players are going to be able to build, and then like Kong's players are going to be able to craft their own unique like trophies and war banners and like play through multiple dungeons, and then they'll get items that they can trade with Ether Orcs players so that they can make more limited time items. I want to see collabs being just like a major focal point moving forward, because like, yeah, like we were saying, interoperability is important. Bringing in other projects into the dungeon, into all eForce gameplay is insanely important, because yeah, end of the day, we're all stronger together. Everything will be better if we all work together as teams, with like our brightest all coming up with new ways to like integrate and create compelling gameplay.
Yeah. And I think the key, like, because I actually, not to bring it negative, so Beef's the hype positive and I'm the cynic, but like, I generally think interoperability is kind of a bad, like, is not super effective the way most people think about it in Web3, because they're thinking about it as like, I can take my one asset and plug it into anything, which just pragmatically will not happen because it is just hard to go execute that and execute it well and have it live within the same universe thoughtfully, like a true deep integration. So that's where, to me, the bigger idea is what games have already done, which is, like the cool branded, co-branded kind of stuff that still makes sense within the world, right? We're not going to have the exact Kong hammer or whatever if it's like or the Kong won't have a gun in the Ether Orcs world. How about that? And we're not gonna give a Kong a gun. We're not just gonna go bring it in, or we're not gonna go just take BAYC and go like throw them into the dungeon. They're gonna be smoking a cigar and shit. Like, we're not doing that. Like, it's gonna be, hey, here's a character that looks like the original, that represents the original IP, and then the stuff that gets left behind through that process becomes like a cool item, unique, has utility, but also just like a unique collectible, right? Like, I think back to like some of the stuff that I loved that Sega did really well was like they always had little nuggets and interoperability kind of co-branded stuff within their different games, right? There was like a Sonic thing or like a Cheo or something showed up. Like, there's always like cool stuff like that. So it's more like that type of approach, because I feel like, the sandbox style, okay, we're just gonna have like 50,000 different things in there. It's just gonna be like VR chat where you got like Spider-Man humping like someone from Grand Theft Auto, and it'll just be a mess.
Yeah, that's not the interoperability that we see it as
Yeah.
full game integration in a
That's so,
thoughtful
like,
way.
Rule
In a
34
thoughtful way.
interoperability,
But like, yeah, like, I think Smash Bros actually did like, to me, Smash Bros does like
That's the best
interoperability in
example.
probably the best way, right? It's like the
Yeah,
trophy
that's obvious.
system, and it's like because like, Sekiro, it has like such a love as a whole, like the history of gaming, and like the way, like, could Ether Orcs end up being like a love letter to Web3 gaming as a whole? Who knows? Maybe that's the interoperability we go for, where it's like, am I just like, this is where I go off the deep
this
end
is good.
every day?
No, wait, hold on. Now I just came up. You made me realize something very deep. Here, hold on. This is very important.
Oh, here we go.
Super Smash Bros. First of all, that's a great example. I didn't think about that, and so obvious. So first of all, Super Smash Bros. Has done interoperability better than anyone in Web3. So I'll just throw that out there. But who did interoperability even better than Super Smash Bros? Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts.
Ooh,
More
great drop.
interoperable
Sir.
than any other project of all time. They brought ridiculous Disney characters into Final Fantasy across all the serious Final Fantasy characters, and somehow people thought it worked.
We were all 13, and it made sense. And the OST was a banger.
Yeah. When you walk away, or whatever that, yeah.
All I
that
know
was
is
it.
that we need like the Web3 version of a Smash Bros. Where you can have the board apes fighting because there's something very primal about just battling, like hand-to-hand combat, that just kind of like makes sense, right? It doesn't have to fit any kind of storyline or narrative. It's just you have these different characters just beating the shit out of each other.
And they do they fit into a narrative, right? They're like
yeah,
they have the loose, goofy narrative, right? That like just barely works, but it's enough.
It's always a portal. The guy comes in. Yeah, it's like Kong's warped in through. Like, I'm just like, this is me writing lore on the fly. The Kong's warped in through a portal into Valhalla. Like, they must defeat whatever. We'll write it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in the real-time lore writing session live on Twitter Spaces. I mean, we could do this every Thursday if you need to get some productivity done there.
That'd be awesome.
I actually love this conversation about like Web 2 and Web 3 kind of like merging and coalescing, because I think it is inevitable, whether we like it or not. But one of the things that I love about where we are right now is that we're kind of watching the development curve happen of traditional gaming in real time in Web3, where people, like you said, are moving fast. They're making a lot of mistakes, trying out new things. But the scope of everything, just as we go month to month to month or year to year, is just getting bigger and bigger. And I think eventually they will kind of just end up meeting in some way or form. I'm curious as to, Beef, you say you've been playing a lot of games. You're always in there in Steam trying out new stuff and figuring out what you can draw from there for inspiration. Poof, I'm not sure if you're the same way, actively playing games. I know my gaming hours have definitely taken a beating in the last year or so, but I still do try. I'm curious as to if any games have, like, newer games have piqued your interest
Oh
as to,
yeah.
like, something that would really, really work in this space, and like
Oh
what the
no.
Oh
mechanics
yeah.
are.
Oh
Oh, here
no.
we go. Oh, here we
Oh
go.
no.
Vampire Survivors.
Oh,
Everyone's gonna lose a lot of time now. I got
Everybody needs to
run
go play
Vampire
Vampire
Survivors.
Survivors right now. It's
What is that
$3.
about? What is that game? What do you
It's like a reverse bullet hell where it's like a progressive like power up. Like, so you know why like everybody loves shonen manga? You have like that power fantasy, like you're constantly getting strong. You watch characters constantly get stronger. This is like the same thing where you're constantly leveling up and getting power ups in a roguelite setting that only lasts in 30-minute intervals. But
Ooh.
I am
it's
looking at the gameplay
probably
right now, and I'm like, okay, yep, I'm in. Like, let's do this.
it's $3. Give it a shot. Like you all spend $3 on gas fees and
It's
for
so
whatever.
addicting. It's
It
so
is
addicting, and
Can
it
you
like
pay?
sucks you
amazing.
in,
Can you
and it's
pay in
like
crypto?
dirty. You
No,
can
it's a
just play it for free, but also it's
yeah.
$2. You'll pay more
It's
in gas.
Damn it.
Well, you used to be
but
able to instantly.
This
That was
is
enthusiastic.
exactly what I needed.
this is the this we all needed during the bear. But yeah, we like the second we all found out about it, we were DMing in the Ether Orcs team chat. And we're like, oh yeah, we could make this for orcs. We can make an orc version of this.
I'm happy to report that I just purchased it, and it's downloading right now. So I will report
Such a
back.
good game.
Not on the spaces, but soon.
So good.
Man.
Do you guys
Yeah,
have like a delay or something? Never mind.
Oh man, I also bought a Steam Deck, so I'm just buying things left, right, and center right now. Just
I
playing.
thought about what games have I played? Like I haven't played a bunch of games recently. Like I'm a weird I don't have a lot of time to play games. I mean I do. Like none of us have time to play games, so we're all just doing it for fun, right? But
My dumbass actually making time for it.
I know. No, it's good because then you can give us different ideas. But I think what was the last? I mean, other than Elden Ring, there was some game. Oh, For the King was the one that I actually got really deep into when we were developing Dungeon Crawls. That's like not a new game, but that was like
No, that's a great game.
Why did you kick him?
Well,
who is that? I don't know.
I don't know.
I
want
thought
him
he
to get
came
back
up
and
to ask
scream
a
again.
question. Oh yeah. Well, he can
Oh
come
no,
back
he
up.
left now. No.
that was interesting.
I didn't realize he was a plant.
Oh man, For the
I
King's a
feel
great
bad
game.
for his
Yeah,
neighbors.
yeah, right. He's just screaming into his phone on Twitter.
Sounds fun.
Sometimes you got to do something to feel alive, right?
I wish I had like a booth or something I could just scream into. I've always wanted that. Just like during the day. Just like go in and scream.
I think there are places you could go and pay money to do that while you're like smashing lamps and stuff too. It can probably be therapeutic.
I don't like destroying, but screaming's fine. Yeah. So no, thanks, and like thanks again for letting us just babble here because we just like talking about this stuff.
Yeah, of course. Freebark, is there anything else you wanted to touch on with the boys from Ether Orcs?
No, I mean, this was fabulous. We, on Terrestrial Thursdays, we always love to dig deep into the game theory side of, I guess, P2E, whatever we want to call it. And I couldn't think of two guys to do it better with. So this has really been fabulous. Thank you, Poof. Thank you, Beef, for coming on. This has been great.
Thank you guys for having us. It's been great. This is actually a lot of fun.
Thank you.
We should definitely do it again soon, especially when the Ether Orcs are coming into the Star Wolvez universe, of course, in a way that makes sense. But we always,
and we're always happy to just talk any like normal stuff too, not specific to Ether Orcs anytime. So we're just very negative about everyone else. So just know that.
But I think you're right. It's really important, right? Because like I always say, like you can bring a project founder up on a space and they can, say ad nauseum all of the stuff that they know about their own project because they should know that stuff about their own project and they probably said it dozens and dozens of times. But it's always good to like understand what makes those people tick, why they're in this space, how they got there. I think it's like just really good to have that conversation in that voice because it's a more refreshing kind of way of looking at things, I think.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, the whole reason I think games and NFTs will eventually work out is because people will see the importance of owning an asset that can live through many game cycles and many types of games. It's not just about, one game character that you make and then that dies when that game dies. It's like, okay, this is a CCO character. This is a piece of metadata that I worked on through via a game for so long. And now this can just live on in it forever on chain and through different games that people build on top of existing games.
I love it. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you guys taking the time so much. Beef, even on your vacation, still, taking time off so that you can work more. It's wonderful. Love having the conversation, and we'll definitely do it again soon. I also just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in today and giving us your time to listen into Terrestrial Thursday. It's going to be up on our YouTube page as well as recorded on Twitter so that you can listen to it. If you ended up tuning in late, we also have a bunch of other discussions with project founders that we post every week. So just another great Thursday in the books. Poof, Beef, and of course, FMC. Thank you guys so much, and we will all talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
guys so much. Peace
Have a
out.
good one.